Hello, Cosmic Witches. Welcome back to another episode of the Divine Gossip Girls with your hosts, me, Maggie, Sophie, and Carly. We are so excited to finish off, almost, I guess. We still have the crown to go, but finish off our chakra-esque series. We're talking about the third eye today, but not like, what is the third eye and what does it do? We're just talking about the energy that it holds and a topic we want to talk about. So today we're talking about the energy of spiritual gifts, psychic powers, and we want you to know that, guess what, girl, you're psychic. We all are. We all have these abilities, and I'll break it down in the episode, but we just wanted to really talk about that third eye space and how powerful you can be if you really unlock it, step into it, and embrace it. So with that being said, let's jump into today's episode, but before we do, get your ticket for Aura Elevation. Come on, what are you doing? If you haven't already, you have 2 days left. If you don't know what Aura Elevation is, it is our 21-day ritual challenge where we work through all 7 chakras, and we really look at the energy there. You're going to connect with it. You're going to expand it to become a more aware, sparkly version of yourself. Like, you can really understand how the energy works, but also expand through it and feel really empowered and emboldened by it. And just like understand yourself more. It's also a spiritual taste tester. We're going to be doing astrology, passive regression, somatic work. We're going to do Reiki, breath work, all this fun stuff. And it's only $49. You get to try it all out, see what you vibe with. For $49, I don't even think you can get one of these things for $49 normally. So what are you doing? Get your booty into Aura Elevation round 5. We are so excited. So get yourself inside Aura Elevation. Let's work together and really give your energy that little fresh breath that it needs. And let's talk about how you are psychic. Let's go. Hey, Cosmic Witches! Divine Gossip Girls here, your one and only source into the spiritual happenings of the cosmos.
Ever wonder what this month's energy will have in store for you? What the planets and stars are even up to? Or if the universe can just help you catch a break already?
Well, lucky you, because we have all the spiritual secrets to tell. Get ready to sip on your weekly dose of divine tea.
Okay, so I really wanted to talk about this because I feel like both of you guys from the beginning, like when I first met you, you're like, I'm a self-love coach. I'm like confidence empowerment coach. And now you're like, I channel messages from the divine, because I was like, girl, you can channel, girl, you're psychic to both of you guys. Both of you were like, no, I can't do this. And now you're like, I just embrace this as part of who I am.
I'm laughing so much. Like, I'm just laughing. I'm a self-love coach. I'm a confidence coach.
Not that there's anything wrong with that,
No,
but now you guys are like, you channel things, like you feel so much more, I know, like connected with your guides. You feel connected with that third eye space, which I bet even when we started Aura Elevation, I feel like neither of you were like fully even emboldened. Like 2 years ago, you weren't fully in that third eye space. And I would literally be like yelling at you guys all the time, like, wake up, wake your third eye up. And I think some of us, it comes more naturally too. Like, I think some of us, it just like, it's something that is innately within us that you just need to be given the right tools or the right knowledge, and all of a sudden you run with it. But I think anyone can do what any three of us, like what all three of us do, if they like want to work on really strengthening that intuitive muscle. It's like how some people are, you know, naturally talented at sports or naturally talented at music. And it's like, it might be easier for them to go out there and like run with it and run with their talents. But technically anyone can like learn how to play the guitar if they practice enough. Anyone can be a good basketball player if they really train hard. It's just, it comes more naturally to some people. And I think it's the same with these gifts. It's the same with your third eye space. It's like some people are born and they're like already, you know, just really vibing. Some people, a lot of people are like that, and then some people have different things that happen to their lives that shut off that third eye, right? Or some people just naturally can tap into it, but I think we're all psychic. And I think you guys agree, but if not,
I do agree. And I 100% agree, but it's like, for me personally, it's the trust aspect was what I had to strengthen. It's like when I like had my first spiritual awakening, when I started to tap into coaching, become a coach, and just started my journey. The first kind of chapter of connecting to my third eye was just learning to trust myself first. And then it got to that, it was like the next step was, okay, like now I can open this door to trusting in like messages coming through the divine rather than just like my own intuition per se, you know? So it was that kind of stepping stone. And I remember it obviously did get to a point where it's like, okay, it's time for me to just dive a little bit deeper into like not only trusting myself, but trusting myself to open up and receive those messages and to trust the powerful force of myself and the universe or the spirit teams working together, and instead and not just being like about trusting myself. And when I started to challenge myself to do that, whether it was through live workshops or through live tap-ins or holding live practices without preparing anything or without being like, okay, this is what I'm going to say, this is how I'm going to say it, but actually being like, okay, like, can I just like dance and open up my third eye and open up my crown chakra and let my heart and the universe move through me. And it was this kind of muscle of learning to trust in that. And then bit by bit, I was like, oh my God, like, where does this come from?
I feel like your story too, Sophie, is so unique. You just really had to embrace that trust. And I think that's part of everyone's journey. Like, I also had to do that. But, you know, I started channeling like with material things, right? Like I started by just being like, ooh, this is fun. Let's just read tarot cards and see what they do. But it was like I had a medium to work through, whereas you had to just be like, I'm just going to say what comes to me as I tap.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And I remember, and even now, like I I remember doing it and I would get, I think we spoke about this before, but my head would be so sore. And Maggie's like, you've not closed off the channel. Like you haven't closed off your channel. So I had to like actively close it off, and it was through that that made me realize, oh wait, like this actually is real. Like this isn't just like something that's moving through my throat. There is actually energy moving through me.
Yeah, it's not just coming from my brain and then like I'm speaking it
I
through.
feel like so many people, especially like, I mean, if you think about it, we're all channels. It's just to what degree you claim it and allow it to like move through
And
you.
open
Like,
up to it.
think about like people, like speakers, you know, like any sort of motivational speaker is channeling. Like they are an open channel. And what that, like, I feel like a lot of people just have this idea of what it means to be psychic, and they think it's like seeing dead people or being able to like speak to loved ones passed on. And like, yes, that's a form of, you know, being a medium is like a form of being a psychic, but it's not that because you aren't like speaking to the dead, you aren't a channel. It just doesn't, it like, it means that you're channeling in a different way. And I really feel like what that just means to be a channel is opening up your third eye, your crown, your being to receive the wisdom and the support and the guidance and the love of the universe. And you can channel that in like any way. People that create art are channeling. People that like, I think a lot of times science looks at channeling as like being in a state of flow. Like when someone's playing music and they get into that meditative state, that is like a form of channeling, like that energy and just being like this. I see it as like a river, like a dam, and like one is like a river that's closed off, and like there's another river that has like more rivers feeding into it. And I feel like that's like when you open up your gates to channeling, it's like you're opening up your one river to like a bunch of rivers. So you're not just I don't even know what's coming through with this, but maybe I'm channeling this.
I feel the same way. I see it as like opening like windows and like almost like pulling the drapes back and then opening the windows and like the light just comes through,
Yeah.
right? And then it's like, okay, I'm done. I have to close, lock it up, close it up.
Yeah.
But I think I totally agree with you, Carly. It's just like, I think everyone has this ability, but it's exactly what Sophie was saying, where it's like, it's just that trust aspect of it that I feel like we need to get into, because like that's how I started my real like I was doing channeling before through cards, but I don't think I truly understood why I was always right, like how I did this. And then when I started doing past life regression, I started having like feelings in my body, and I started channeling through like thoughts and different things from guides, from like the actual past life regressions of the clients that I was working with. And then I had to just like trust myself. I had to just write it down and be like, yeah, I trust that I'm feeling what I'm feeling. And it was a really interesting way to like strengthen my intuition, because I had to just like go for it. And then it was like, oh, it's right. Right? Like and there's sometimes where I didn't write it down. And I was like, oh, I should have, because I was right, but I didn't write it down as that like concrete proof for myself or for the client. And you see, like when people are forced to take chances on themselves, when they're forced to trust their intuition, when they're forced to channel. In the last round of Aura Elevation, we did a live, the like third eye live that I did, was I literally had people like open up to their guides, do their channeling, and just trust themselves. And then I forced them to trust themselves, and I'm like, you're going to channel for somebody else here. You're going to get a message. And everyone could do it. Everyone had like a strong message to give someone else, but it's because they were like put in this little pressurized container and be like, trust yourself. And it was like, well, I have to trust
Oh
what's
my
coming.
God, I remember that. I
I
kind of
feel like
forgot
kids.
the little intricate parts of that workshop. I was like, yes, I love that so much. And I feel like it is that level of trust. And for you, Maggie, there's these, I loved what you said, Carly. It's like, yeah, there's these different forms of being psychic. And maybe sometimes, maybe not everyone's meant to be at the degree other people are at, and like that's okay, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you do have channeling gifts, you do have psychic abilities to tap into, and it's just whether or not where how you want to use them and how you want to actually channel them. Whereas Maggie is like, yeah, like claiming this like medium and this psychic mediumship and psychic. And I actually would just love for you to dive a little bit deeper. I know Carly want to say something, but I also would just love to hear more of what it feels like and what it looks like to be in the depth of being a psychic.
Yeah, I was just gonna add in there really quick that like if we look to children, like they're such open channels. Like I feel
Yeah.
like what really gets in the way of us fully being in like our psychic abilities and powers is just I guess the way that we are really socialized to kind of, first of all, like I feel like conditioning of learning to not trust ourselves or feeling we're unworthy of holding certain power, or like we're not deserving of trusting ourselves. I feel like that is the first thing that breaks us away from that spiritual connection. And then the second that we go on that journey to begin trusting ourselves, even if you're not intentionally doing it to become a more open channel or to become a psychic, like any journey you go on with yourself that includes self-trust, building self-worth, opens you up to a deeper connection to spirit. And I think that's why so many people that begin on a personal development journey end up spiritually awakening as well, because you just begin to trust yourself, you begin to love yourself more, and all of these things directly connect you back to source and back to your spirit that is that unifying center of love. But very similar to Maggie, I have a similar experience when I do Reiki or work with clients. The way that I connect is through sensations in my body and feelings in my body and things like that. And the first time that I shared with clients, thankfully they were all like practice clients, right? So like friends or family or other coaches that I knew. And so I didn't feel like as scared to just be bold and be like, this is what came through. But the more that I leaned into it, the stronger that got, and the more trust I had in myself. So even if it was something really weird or like just didn't make any sense, I would say it and just see what the reaction is. And even if they're like, oh, not quite like this, then I piece it together with other things. Because intuition can sometimes be like very subtle, right? So you have to interpret it, and it's a lot about the interpretation of what comes through. But yeah, Maggie, what is it
Yeah,
like?
I think I really vibe with what you're saying there, where also it's like, it's always interpretation. I think sometimes, like, I have people come to readings who are so closed off because they're sort of like, you need to prove it to me. And like, that's fine. We can get to a certain space with me just proving it to you. However, and sometimes there's still like mind blowing moments. However, the most powerful reading is always going to be when the person's like open to working with me, because it's not like I'm sitting here having a conversation with like you guys, right? It's not like I'm sitting here just like having a physical conversation. I am trying to open myself up to get messages. And then I'm trying to, like, you know, whoever it is on the other side, whether it's like, you know, a past loved one, a guide, energy in general, they're trying to give me the message. I'm trying to hear it and be open enough to hear it. And then I'm trying to decipher what is being said. It's always going to be the best if I'm sitting there with you, like whether that's on Zoom or like in person, that's always going to be more powerful because we can have this conversation. But I was just doing pay what you can story readings, and I had someone come through and it was like someone's father. I was like, yeah, it's like a paternal like father energy. And he was saying something like Scar, like he, you know, he was very proud. Like I could feel that like very warm, loving energy. And I really was getting the message of like, I'm so proud with how you move through the world. And I was like, that's so beautiful. But then he was saying something and I couldn't quite get it. And I'll repeat it back and I'll just have this like resounding like, no. So he was saying like scar. And I was like, scar? And he's like, no. I was like, okay, so like birthmark? And he's like, no. And I was like, okay, but scar. He said, not scar. And then I'd be like, what are you saying? He'd say scar. And I was like, I'm so confused. And then I put something in it, and it was just on my story. So I was like, DM me so like so I can be more clear because I'm really confused. And she DM'd me and she's like, this is 100% my dad. Like she didn't even give me the chance to like try and prove myself. Like I had done enough, I guess, to prove to her. She's like, this is 100% my dad. We just posted today, my sister and I, we were able to like launch a scholarship in his honor. And I think scholarships, like scholar, sounded a lot in my head like scar. Like it has similar energy, right? And so with that, it was like, okay, you can see where it was like someone speaking through the telephone and it's like not quite coming through clear to me. But like someone might say that and be like, oh no, you were talking about a scar. But I was like, no, I just like through the dimensions, like through trying to process this through my mind, couldn't quite get to scholarship. But like the sound is still there, right? And the energy was there. So, and then sometimes it's like, you know, just point blank, where it's like, okay, I understand that message. Or sometimes it's like images that like flash through my mind. Like someone's grandfather came through and he kept saying nickname. And then I just got this hand like pointing to me and I was like, I don't have any nicknames. What are you talking about? And I was like, I mean, my name's Margaret. I go by Maggie. Like I wouldn't count that a nickname, but I was like, I have literally zero nicknames unless someone calls me like Mags. Right. And then I was talking to her after and she's like, yeah, my grandfather, he had nicknames for everyone that was like in with him. Like everyone he loved had a nickname. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And she's like, yeah, my nickname was Muffin. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. I have one nickname that one person calls me, and it's my aunt, and she calls me Muffin. And it's like to the extent where like I get a birthday card, I get a Christmas card, it says Muffin, it doesn't say Maggie. I pulled up like my text with her, and whenever my aunt texts me, she's like, hey Muffin, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I just couldn't put it together because I was like, I don't have a nickname because it's literally one person, but it's one person who like religiously calls me this, like will call me basically nothing else. Like she comes to my house, she gives me a hug, she's like, hey Muffin. Like it's just something she did, right? It's something she did that stuck with me. I told her, like I was thinking about it recently, I was like, she literally brought me like a birthday gift this year and it was just like money. And it was money that she put like in the wrapper of a muffin because she was like, this is so funny. So I was like, oh my gosh, he's saying her nickname is yours. But I was like, I don't know what you mean by nickname me. I don't have one.
I feel like that story in itself just makes you realize, I feel like so many people are like, oh, I'm not a psychic because I don't get like these clear sentences handed to me by the universe. And it's like the universe literally speaks to you in code. Like it's not going to be like this all of a sudden you receive this clear sentence. Like it's literally if someone is clairaudient, they usually just get a word and then you have to like interpret the word, or like it will just be a sound, like you'll hear jingle bells or you'll hear, and it's like even when you ask a sign, like you ask for a sign, it's not like, oh, all of a sudden, you know, Sophie's seeing rainbows and that equates to this. Like, no, it's like, okay, what you're seeing mixed with what you're feeling, mixed with like, you have to piece things together. And I think that's why a lot of people that are skeptic would say that spirituality isn't real, or that psychics aren't real, or that mediumship isn't real, clairvoyance, you know, being a channel isn't real, because it's not something you can fact check. It's not so clear cut. And I think for someone that is spiritual, but has a little bit more of like that right brain that's more like logic and making sense of things, like, no, you need to be creative and use your imagination and be in a bit of this childlike imagination to be able to be in your true power of being a psychic and claiming that. Because if you're really in that hardcore masculine of it needs to be structured and perfect and handed to me in a neat little present with a bow on it, you're always going to be doubting yourself, because that's not how it works. And it's all based off of a feeling. You will know when you have just interpreted something right. You'll feel it. You'll know, right? Like, I'm sure, Sophie, you know when you are in your flow of channeling a tapping, or you're channeling dance. Like, Meg, you know when you're connecting and you just clicked, okay, that's what you meant by pointing at me and doing the thing. And it's like you feel that resounding yes in your body and your being, and you know it.
And I feel the resounding no. Like, if I'm not sure what someone's trying to tell me, I'll be like the scar thing, I'm like, scar? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, but I don't know what that, like, I don't know how to go forwards from this. So sometimes that's when you need the client to come in and be like, well, I did a scholarship. And then I get that resounding yes. And I'm like, I understand now.
Something that I would like to add on there is like, well, two things. First of all, is like what I'm hearing is, if you are someone who wants to like tap into trusting their intuition a bit more, like really devote to the journey of it, you know, and like building the muscle of it. It's like you're not going to become this like confident, open, completely trusting channel and psychic overnight. It is a muscle, and like we've all been on this journey together. Carly, Maggie, and I have been on this journey of spiritually awakening together as like as a friend group for what, 3-4 years, and all three of us have really, really evolved within our psychic abilities, within our channeling abilities. And it's that devotion to, one, trusting in it, but also challenging the channeling, you know, challenging the channeling and actually pushing yourself to, each time you do open up that channel, whether it is through holding sessions or whether it is just channeling messages for yourself and intuitive messages and guidance and steps for yourself. But going off of that, the second thing that I wanted to say was, the biggest thing for me, and maybe it's just a little invitation for you to find something that allows you to be a channel, is how I started to become a channel was really through dance. You know, I'm someone who can get in their head and who can close themselves off and can kind of grip onto like how, what, where, how, what, where. And actually through dance was when how I then realized that, okay, like dance is actually the codes to become an open channel, to become a channeler, to become a psychic, where I can get into my body, I can open up my crown, I can tap into my heart and my third eye, and that's when I become that open channel. So maybe finding some way where you can start to like tap into becoming it, kind of opening your channel up through dance, through some sort of movement,
Like, it's the
through
root.
singing.
A lot of times we say root to rise, and it's like a lot of people will just try to dive into meditation and then ask their guides right away, like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? And then they're not grounded in themselves. They're not rooted in themselves. Their nervous system is so all over the place that it's hard to move from being in fight or flight and in the ego to being that open channel. And I think Sophie brought up like such a good point there with dance, like any sort of somatic practice. Like, I do think a lot of people, once you have really strengthened this connection, it's not so hard to to just channel, right? You can like just sit down in your car, critical.
Yeah,
like
it becomes a lot easier to tap into.
it's like a muscle, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. This is how I see it. It's like this muscle, and each time you tap into it and channel that muscle, it strengthens.
I've always said this. I've said it's like you can't just like go to the gym the first day and be like, I'm gonna bench press 300 pounds. Like you can't just like sit down and be like, I'm gonna channel spirit guides. Like it's just you can't. It's a muscle that you need to start small. Like that's why I'm like small intuition practices can also help so much. Like I encourage people to like go on walks and like use your intuition to see like where you go and you notice like the really beautiful things that you see and then be like, thank you, intuition. So that's a step that you can take if you guys want to like, you know, really get started working with that intuitive muscle, working with that intuition. But if you want to take it one step further, I'm going to say, I'm going to put a little, we have the practices at the end of these. So why don't I put a little intuition activation, little meditation practice after this? Test it out, see where in your body that intuition is sparked, where it lies, where you can move with it, and get back to us. Let us know. Post about it on Instagram, send us a message. You can comment down on Spotify now. Let us know how you like today's episode, but also how your intuition feels, how you want to grow with it, and how this practice goes. So I'm sure we could talk about this like for a million years longer, and we're gonna have to do another episode because this one was so simple. We all have so much to say, and I think we could literally make this a 4-hour long episode, but we're gonna leave that with you for now. Join Aura Elevation if you haven't already. Let's get into that intuitive space. We're doing a past life regression with the third eye. We're doing some intuitive practices. Even with the crown chakra, I know Carly's getting you connected with your guides and you're going to be picking signs and you're really going to be working with this space. So if you're ready to take it one step further, it's only $49. Get into Aura Elevation and let's get you connected with your third eye. Let's get you connected with your psychic abilities, your spiritual gifts. And with that being said, let's get into the little practice we're going to do, but we'll see you guys next week. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Sit back, get comfortable, put your hands on your lap, feet on the ground, or whatever feels the most natural to you. Now, whenever you are ready, you may close your eyes and take 7 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Now, as your breath returns to normal, take your hands and cup them in front of your heart space, as if you are holding on to a small little ball. With each inhale, allow your hands to expand away from each other ever so slightly. And with each exhale, bring your hands back in. Repeat this with each breath until you begin to feel the sticky, static energy between your hands. this ball of energy to become larger and larger as you continue to breathe in and out. Your hands returning with the exhale a bit further apart than they may have started. This here is your energy. You are in tune and one with your energy in this moment. How does it feel? Overwhelming, scary, exciting, maybe hopeful? What is your energy trying to tell you here? And now we will take one more deep breath in, and as we breathe out, cleansing this energy of any negative feelings, scarcity mindset, or stress. And now, whenever you are ready, move your hands upwards towards the forehead, right in front of your third eye. That space right between your eyebrows. Allow your hands to keep moving in and out with the breath, holding on to or rediscovering that energy. And once you are ready, move this energy towards your third eye, placing your fingers flat on the forehead. Feel this energy brighten and warm this place on your forehead. And as you breathe in and out, notice where this energy goes and where it falls within your body. This is your intuition center. This is the part of you that is intuitively guiding you in your connection to the universe. Feel as the energy flows from your fingertips on your forehead all the way through to wherever that energy is settling. Feel into it. And moving forwards, listen to it, notice it, and most of all, nurture it. It is here to remind you, you already have all the answers you need. And now, whenever you are ready, you may open your eyes.